You did everything right. You got the degree, the $80,000 job, yet rent just went up, your grocery bill feels like a car payment, and your $10,000 savings feels like an absolute joke. You're scrolling through your feed, and somehow you've ended up watching a teenager in a rented Miami penthouse explain how he turned 10 grand into $1 million in 90 days by trading high-conviction asymmetric options. He's flashing a lifestyle he absolutely does not own, while you're sitting there doing the brutal math in your head, thinking, if I just have $10,000 to work with, what is actually possible for a normal person? Welcome to Sky Invests. There is no masterclass to sell you, and no financial jargon, just brutal math. Hit subscribe, let's go. Here is the first truth the algorithm hates. You can absolutely turn $10,000 into $400,000. The numbers are real, the strategy is stupidly simple, but the people who actually built their wealth this way aren't making noisy videos about it. They are sitting in a dented Toyota Corolla at a Costco gas pump, completely invisible. Let's look at the trap. In the USA today, $10,000 feels like a massive milestone when you are scraping it together month after month, cutting down on streaming services and takeout. But the second you look at the macro numbers, reality hits you like a cold shower. 10 grand can't buy a house, it barely covers a major medical emergency, and if you leave it sitting in a traditional Chase or Bank of America savings account, inflation quietly devours it at 3% a year while they pay you an insulting 0.01% interest. The system is designed to make you feel like you are running on a treadmill, working harder, earning more, but staying exactly in the same place. Because of this exhaustion, our generation falls for hustle porn. We are told to open dropshipping stores, manage Amazon warehouses from our bedrooms, or spend 3 hours a day analyzing penny stock candle charts after a brutal 9-to-5 shift. It's a lie. You don't lack motivation, you lack a system that doesn't require your physical energy to scale. To turn $10,000 into $400,000, your money needs to double exactly 5.3 times. If you try to force those doubles by being clever and timing the market, statistics guarantee you will wipe out your account within 18 months. Now, if you drop that $10,000 into the standard American stock market and do absolutely nothing, never add another single cent, it will take roughly 38 years to hit your target. That is not an investment strategy, that is a life sentence. By the time that money hits 400 grand, you'll be too old to remember why you wanted it in the first place. But stick with me, because the second you plug in the lazy protocol where you stop trading and start automating micro contributions, the timeline collapses dramatically. But before I show you the exact index funds to click on your phone tonight, we need to talk about why you haven't done this already. It's because the financial industry has a multi-billion-dollar incentive to keep you terrified, confused, and dependent on them. In the next section, we are pulling back the curtain on the silent mechanism that is stealing your wealth right out from under your nose while you sleep. Let's look at the engineered leak. When you finally build up your savings and look for a place to grow it, the traditional financial industry welcomes you with open arms and a reassuring smile. They offer you a personal wealth manager, a glossy brochure, and tell you their fee is just a tiny, insignificant 1%. 1% sounds like nothing. It sounds like a sales tax. It sounds like a rounding error you shouldn't even look twice at. But on Wall Street, 1% is a financial weapon. Let's run a side-by-side simulation that should honestly be taught in high school. Investor A takes $100,000 and puts it into a self-managed, low-cost index fund charging 0.03%. Investor B takes the exact same 100 grand and hands it to a traditional financial advisor charging a standard 1% fee. Both investors get the exact same 8% return from the market every year for 30 years. Look at the screen. After 3 decades, Investor A is sitting on over $1 million. Investor B? They have $761,000. The math is brutal. That seemingly innocent 1% fee didn't take 1% of Investor B's money. It quietly siphoned off nearly $245,000 of their retirement wealth. $250,000 gone. That is a fully paid-off suburban home, a decade of college tuition for your kids, or 5 years of early retirement completely vaporized while you slept. Here is why this happens, and why it should make you absolutely furious. Financial advisors charge you a percentage of your total assets under management, not a percentage of your profits. This means if the stock market crashes tomorrow, and your portfolio drops 20%, your advisor still takes their 1% cut. You take 100% of the financial risk, while they take 0% of the risk, but guarantee themselves a payday. You are paying a premium to a guy in a tailored suit to quietly bleed your future dry. Now, if you confront the financial industry about these brutal fees, they'll give you their favorite counter-argument. They'll look you dead in the eye and say, yes, we charge a premium, but that's because you are paying for elite, market-beating expertise. Our fund managers have Ivy League PhDs, lightning-fast supercomputers, and exclusive data feeds. We can time the market, pick the winning stocks, and dodge the crashes for you. It sounds like a fair trade-off. You pay more to get a vastly superior product. Except, there is one massive, multi-billion-dollar problem with this narrative. It is statistically a flat-out lie. Enter the Spiva report. This stands for S&P Indices versus Active. It is a massive, independent study published twice a year by S&P Dow Jones, and its entire job is to track how these elite, suit-wearing professional fund managers actually perform against a completely free, automated index fund. The data from the latest report is an absolute bloodbath for Wall Street. In any given year, roughly 65% of large-cap professional fund managers underperform the general S&P 500 market index. They look at all their charts, make all their trades, charge you their fees, and do worse than a dead simple basket of America's largest stocks. But it gets worse when you look at the long game, because nobody invests for just 12 months. When you stretch that timeline out to 15 years, the failure rate of these experts skyrockets to over 88%. Think about that. Out of 22 distinct categories of domestic equity funds tracked by Spiva, guess how many categories had a majority of managers beat the market over 15 years? 0. None. Not a single group of professionals could beat a basic, brainless index fund that you can buy on your mobile phone in your pajamas. You are literally paying a massive premium to Wall Street to get a worse financial outcome. Why does this fraud exist? Because the entire financial industry has a desperate existential incentive to make investing look terrifyingly complicated. If they told you the truth, that turning 10,000 into 400,000 is just a matter of clicking 3 buttons and sitting completely still for 2 decades, their entire business model would collapse overnight. There is no commission on doing nothing. There is no advisory fee for patience. They need the noise. They need the panic. They need you constantly buying, selling, and second-guessing yourself so they can collect their transaction cuts. Wall Street doesn't make money when your wealth grows, they make money when your money moves. Now that you know how the game is rigged, it's time to stop playing by their rules and start building your own escape hatch. The financial industry wants you to believe that starting an investment portfolio requires an office meeting, piles of paperwork, and thousands of dollars in minimum deposits. That is a lie designed to keep you on the sidelines. To set up the exact infrastructure needed to turn $10,000 into $400,000, you need exactly 4 minutes, a smartphone, and you can do it sitting on your couch in your pajamas. Step 1 is choosing your platform. Forget the trendy neo-brokerage apps that try to gamify your life savings with confetti and daily push notifications. You want the boring giants. You open a brokerage account with Vanguard, Fidelity, or Charles Schwab. These institutions hold trillions of dollars, they cost absolutely $0 to open, they have no hidden monthly maintenance fees, and they require 0 minimum balance. You download the app, type in your basic information, link your checking account, and just like that, the entire Wall Street middleman network is permanently eliminated from your life. Step 2 is asset selection. This is where most people freeze because they think they need to pick individual winning stocks like Apple, Tesla, or Nvidia. You don't. Picking single stocks is a casino game. Instead, you are going to buy a total market index fund. There are only 2 ticker symbols you ever need to remember for the rest of your life, VTI or VO. VO is Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, which buys you a piece of the 500 largest companies in America. VTI is Vanguard's total stock market index fund, which buys you a piece of literally every single publicly traded company in the United States. Both charge an annual fee of 0.03%. That means for every $10,000 you invest, you pay Vanguard exactly $3 a year. That is less than the cost of a single oat milk latte at Starbucks to own the entire engine of American capitalism. Think about the structural safety of this play. When you buy VTI, you aren't gambling on whether one CEO makes a stupid mistake or one industry goes bankrupt. You are betting on human ingenuity. If tech slumps, energy carries the weight. If retail struggles, manufacturing steps up. You own Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Exxon, and Costco all at once. If the entire index fund goes to 0, it means the United States economy has completely ceased to exist, your cash in the bank is worthless anyway, and we are all fighting for bottled water in the streets. Until that apocalypse happens, this basket of companies historically compounds your money at around 10% a year nominal before inflation. You are buying the market, and as the Spiva report proved, buying the market means you automatically outinvest 88% of the professionals over the long haul. To understand exactly how a $10,000 deposit scales into $400,000, we need to leave the theoretical percentages behind and look at real life. Let's look at Venus. Venus is 28, lives in Columbus, and makes $58,000 a year. She doesn't have an inheritance or a wealthy spouse, but she decided she was done running on the middle-class treadmill. She pulls together $10,000 from her hard-earned emergency savings, logs onto her newly opened brokerage account, and drops it all straight into VTI. Then, she triggers step 3 of the protocol, automation. She sets up an automatic transfer of exactly $350 a month. The transfer is timed precisely with her biweekly payday. The money moves from her checking account to her brokerage account before she ever has a chance to see it or spend it on weekend dinners. She doesn't check the stock market news, she doesn't try to time the dips, she doesn't listen to financial podcasts. The system just runs silently in the background of her life while she goes to work, sleeps, and hangs out with friends. Fast forward 5 years. Venus has been aggressively disciplined. She has skipped concert tickets, packed her lunch for work, and poured money into this account every single month for 60 straight months. She opens her app expecting to feel rich. Her total balance is $39,800. She freezes. She looks at the number, does the quick math, and realizes that out of that 39 grand, $31,000 came directly out of her own pocket from her monthly paychecks. The actual market growth from compounding has been small. This is mathematically and psychologically what the financial world calls the quitting zone. Venus looks at her balance and thinks, compounding is broken. This system is a scam. I could have used this money for a trip to Europe or a better car. 90% of retail investors quit right here, liquidate their accounts, and go back to being broke. But Venus doesn't quit. She keeps the automation running. And right around year 9 and 10, the entire laws of financial physics invert. In year 10, Venus's account crosses $98,000. That year alone, her index fund generates nearly $9,000 in pure market growth, while her physical contributions were just $4,200. For the first time in her life, her money did more actual work than she did at her office job. Once you cross the 10-year inversion point, the snowball grows too massive for inflation to stop. By year 20, Venus is sitting on $215,000. By year 28, her simple, lazy account quietly hands her over $400,000. Venus is still that same marketing coordinator from Columbus, driving a regular car. She never invented a tech app, she never traded an option, she never risked a single dollar on a single company gamble. The brutal, unsexy math of automated patience simply made her wealthy. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It is May 2026, and the S&P 500 is sitting at an absolute, dizzying all-time high. If you open any financial news website right now, the headlines are screaming panic. They are telling you that the Shiller-Cape ratio, which measures how expensive stocks are relative to long-term inflation-adjusted earnings, is sitting right around 40. The historical average? 17. The only other times in modern history that this metric has been this dangerously high were 1929 right before the Great Depression, and 1999 right before the dot-com crash. It is completely natural to look at these charts tonight and think, I'm not investing my $10,000 right now. I'm going to wait in cash until the market crashes, and then buy at the bottom. This sounds incredibly logical on paper, but in reality, trying to time the market is a fool's game that will guarantee you stay broke. Nobody, not even Nobel laureate Robert Shiller himself, knows exactly when or how hard the market will pivot. If you sit on the sidelines holding cash, waiting for a perfect drop, you are losing purchasing power to inflation every single second. But the mathematical reason why market timing will completely destroy your compound growth is something called the 10 best days trap. Look at the data from the last 3 decades. If you had invested a lump sum into the S&P 500 and left it completely untouched for 30 years, you walked away rich. But if you tried to get clever, tried to jump out of the market to avoid the drops, and missed just the 10 best performing days of the market over that entire 30-year window, your lifetime returns were cut exactly in half. Half of your total future wealth completely gone because you missed just 10 days out of 10,000. If you got even more fearful and missed the best 30 days, your total lifetime investment returns plummeted by a staggering 84%. Here is the ultimate paradox that the financial media will never tell you. Roughly 76% of those absolute best performing days in stock market history happened during a brutal bear market, or during the first 2 months of a terrifying new bull market. In other words, the exact days that generate the compounding velocity to make you rich happen precisely when everyone is convinced the world is ending and that they should sell. If you panic sell during a crash, or if you refuse to invest because the market is too high, you are statistically guaranteed to miss the rebound. The lazy method works only if you actually do nothing, which sounds easy, but when the headlines start screaming, it is the hardest thing you will ever do. If you are still sitting there thinking that the lazy protocol only works for corporate workers with high-income cash flows, I want to tell you about a man named Ronald Red. Ronald Red was a gas station attendant in rural Vermont for 25 years. After that, he worked as a janitor at a JCPenney department store for another 17 years. He lived in a tiny house, chopped his own firewood, and wore a flannel coat held together with actual safety pins because he didn't see a reason to waste cash on new buttons. The people in his local town genuinely thought he was poor. They regularly paid for his coffee because they felt sorry for him. When Ronald Read passed away in 2014 at the age of 92, his quiet estate was worth a staggering $8 million. He left $4.8 million to the local hospital and $1.2 million to his town's public library. He left his community on his way out more generational wealth than most people see in 3 lifetimes. How did a man who swept floors and pumped gas for 42 years outinvest almost every elite hedge fund manager of his generation? He didn't invent a technology app, he didn't win the lottery, and he didn't trade single option contract. He just bought boring blue-chip dividend stocks like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, and Colgate, automated his patience, and did absolutely nothing exciting for 60 straight years. Ronald Read is the entire point of this video in human form. He proved that the financial system cannot defeat you if you refuse to play their noisy, hyperactive game. The reason you have never heard the wealth-building process explained this simply before is that nobody on Wall Street can build a profitable corporate business charging you for doing nothing. There is no commission on automated discipline. There is no premium upsell on sitting completely still. Real wealth in America was never the flashy, rented Lamborghini on social media. It was the quiet freedom of Ronald Read's flannel coat. It is the peace of mind knowing you own the machine instead of being ground up inside it. You are not behind in life. You are just playing the long game in a culture that worships the short one. The entire system rewards the noise, but the lazy method wins anyway. You have full permission to be the boring one in your friend's circle. Stop overcomplicating your future. Download the app, pick your total index fund, automate the contributions tonight, and aggressively ignore it. Let the math do the heavy lifting while you live your life. Hit that subscribe button for more brutal financial truths. Set your automation tonight, and I will see you at the finish line.